Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I'm your host, Sean McGahee. In this show, we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. You can listen to Dayspring Discussions on iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic, and Patreon, and contact Dayspring Discussions on the Facebook group, Twitter account, and dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. Well, happy Tuesday, everyone. Hope you are enjoying your week so far. It's a little bit of a rainy day here in Austin, Texas. I was planning on mowing the lawn, but it started raining, and it's windy, and it's pretty much a crappy day, which gives me an excuse to do nothing, which I guess is kind of nice. Starting the show a little later than what I usually do now on Tuesdays. Sat back and watched Molly's Game. Guys, if you haven't seen the film starring Jessica Chastain and written and directed by the man, the myth, Aaron Sorkin, I highly recommend it. I've been thinking about it for like the last 2 weeks, so I watched it this morning and I just love it, love it, love it. If you haven't watched it, it's a great film, great dialogue. Why am I talking about this film? It has nothing to do with fantasy or sci-fi or comic books, because it's awesome. So I want to recommend that. A lot of stuff to go through today. Of course, I'm probably going to be hitting two subjects hard. One is going to be Game of Thrones finale. The other one, the Batman casting news. I will talk about those in length first. I got a couple of quick hits I want to come at you. First off, of course, John Wick 3 has come out this past weekend. I am seeing it tonight. I will share my thoughts on it on Thursday's show. Also coming out this weekend, we got the Aladdin live action remake, and we got Brightburn, the James Gunn produced film, kind of a Superboy horror slant. Two films I'm excited to see, of course, so I will see those hopefully within the next week. And of course, I definitely want to talk about them and share my thoughts on those films. Also, a couple of quick tidbits here. You can find this on the Facebook group or on Twitter. Couple of quick things I want to go through. I can't spend too much time on them because I know I'm going to talk a lot about Game of Thrones and Batman, but I wanted to just talk a little bit about it. First off, the CW came out with their first trailer for Batwoman, the new series that is part of the Arrowverse, and, it's okay. I'm not a big Batwoman fan. I'm not a huge Batman fan either, I guess you could say, too. But with this, it seems like a very CW show, for that matter. Of course, there have been some backlash. It's come to expect the fact that, this is a woman character who's playing technically a Batman-esque. I mean, the reason this show is coming up is because Batman is a popular character, and Warner Brothers will not allow a Batman series to be portrayed when they're going to use them on the big screen. So that's why this character exists. Of course, the character is female and, of course, gay, which, gives different aspects. I do not care about either of those things. Some people online, of course, have voiced their opinion against them. Their reasons, I'm sure, are pretty stupid. So, if you don't like it, don't watch the show, guys, okay? I don't like the Kardashians, but I don't go online every day talking about how much I think they're useless, okay? You don't like it, don't watch it. You don't have to scream about what you don't like. It's a better world if you scream about what you do. And that'll go into Game of Thrones here in a little bit. So, anyway, moving on from that, the Goon movie is in development at Fox. I'm not too familiar with the property, comic book, of course. But it does seem interesting. I've heard of it. I've know a little bit about it. If you guys know more about it, of course, fire back. Let me know. But that is in the works. And also, James Wan, who recently directed Aquaman, is going to help produce The Magic Order for Netflix. Now, The Magic Order is a comic book series by Mark Millar, the guy who wrote Kick-Ass. And he, of course, has his deal with Netflix, and his most recent one was The Magic Order. I've read it. It's great. And it looks like, of course, they're going to be making a live-action series, which I am all for. Way I describe this, it's Harry Potter meets Sopranos is really what it is. It's the mob with magic. You could say it's really, really well written. I enjoy it. I think, though, you need a good script to pull this off. And, Mark Millar, he tells the story, but I think let's get a professional screenwriter in there to amp up some of the dialogue. It's really going to be the characters that are going to sell this. But the premise is great. The comic's great. If you guys haven't checked it out, go pick up a copy because I think you really like it. The CW president has announced that a Deathstroke animated series is on the way to CW Seed. CW Seed, if you guys don't know, is kind of the offshoot of the CW. It's, you can download the app and watch old shows that were on the CW, among other things. Really, I think for me, what it's known for is animated stuff. It's where you get to see Vixen and the Ray, which are animated versions of characters in the Arrowverse. And then they premiered the Constantine animated series as well, which is now a movie they put together. It's Constantine, I forget the name of it, but you can watch it on Blu-ray or whatever. That is not part of the Arrowverse. It's part of the DC animated shared universe, which is weird, but whatever. Anyway, so now they're going to make a Deathstroke one. I don't know if Manu Bennett, who is, been playing Deathstroke for a while, and I don't know if he's going to be doing the voice of Deathstroke or if they're going to get somebody else, but either way, it'll be good, guys. I'm sure we'll check it out, and of course, I will share my feelings on it. And finally, it looks like Sony has set a date for the Masters of the Universe film, March 5th, 2021. Now, as previously reported, Noah Centineo will play He-Man, with Adam and Aaron Nee set to direct. Now, these brothers will also write the script alongside writers Art Markham and Matt Holloway. I don't know who the director is, and I don't know who those writers are, but it's all according to Deadline here. Now, He-Man, of course, popular 80s property, one of my probably top 5 to top 10 favorites cartoons of my childhood. The spin-off She-Ra, Princess of Power, has now got a new series on Netflix called She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. I tried watching it. It's cute. It's kiddie-ish. I tried to get my daughter to watch. She was semi-interested, but not enough to continue watching. And of course, it's, like I said, a kiddie-ish show, so it's not something I'm going to watch on my own, but I fully support it. And of course, He-Man getting a movie greenlit, or setting a date at least. They've been talking about Master Universe for years now. Sure, you can set a date for something, but until production starts to roll and I see a trailer with this film, I'm not going to hold my breath, guys. But okay, there's my quick tidbits. Fire back, of course, on the Facebook group, Twitter account, and gmail.com. Let me know if you think about any of that stuff and your thoughts. Okay, let's get into the big stuff, guys. I'm probably going to go over, of course, my time limit today because these are two big talked about topics, and I'm going to try to limit myself as much as I can to then, of course, fire back Dayspring Discussions at gmail.com, Twitter account, and the Facebook group, and I'll be glad to expand more on this. But I'm going to start off with Game of Thrones because I feel like I don't maybe have as much to say about that as I would say the Batman casting news. But I do have, some to say. I'm going to try to limit myself, though, because my friends over on the Geek Blend, another podcast, they've contacted me recently. They want to do a episode about Game of Thrones sometime this next week. And, we were going to try to do it last night. Didn't work out that way. We're still going to try to do it this week. So I want to maybe hold back a little bit and share a lot of my feelings on that, save the juicy stuff for then. And of course, I love, doing episodes with people going back and forth, the discussions, so to speak. With this show, I don't get a lot of it unless Lisa comes on for a movie review and maybe people guest star, which I tell you right now, anyone who's willing to come over and guest star and talk about a certain topic, you are more than welcome to come. Just let me know. So anyway, I'm going to try to be brief with Game of Thrones and save some of what I really want to say or the details for the Geek Blend. But Game of Thrones series finale was on Sunday on HBO, breaking viewing records for the series. I think it was like 19 million people tuned into it. Not a surprise at all, and not a surprise at all as well that a lot of people seemed disappointed by it. For me, season, was it 6? Last season? They started cutting down episodes, okay? And the creators, Benioff and Weiss, said that they were going to make less episode because they needed each episode to have a bigger budget. Understandable, right? But given the fact that this is the show in the world, you think that HBO would put out whatever amount they had to make it as good as it could possibly be. Now, the episodes, especially this season, I understand where the money went. If you look at everything that has happened this season and how good it's looked, the cinematography in this last episode alone was phenomenal. Just great. So, I can see where the money went. But of course, people are talking about how this season it was all rushed through. Last season was 7 episodes, and I didn't feel like it was rushed. This season, I kind of felt kind of the rushness of it. Sure, it was 1 episode less than what we got last season, but I did feel like, events were going quite a bit quickly in this season compared to last season, which was only 1 episode more. And of course, as you guys know, I'm talking spoilers, so if you haven't watched the series finale, why are you even listening to me, okay? It's going to be in my headlines, Game of Thrones finale. Why would you listen to something that you know is going to have spoilers unless you've seen it and want to hear my thoughts? And then, of course, continue your own opinions about it. I'm not here to, form any opinions for anybody else. I'm here to give my side of it, give you maybe some more things to chew on that you might have thought about, and then, of course, maybe reevaluate. That's what I love to do. I love to listen to, other podcasts about things that I love, such as Game of Thrones, hear a new aspect of something I haven't thought about before, and then take that new information and then assess my opinion once more. That's what I love. That's why I love discussing this stuff. So let's just get into it. I thought it was okay. It wasn't how I absolutely pictured it going down and what the ending was, of course. I guess with this, it's like I like where we ended up. I felt like we got there pretty quickly, which I think is what a lot of people's opinion is that how each character ended or where we left them seemed to be satisfied. It was more of a compromise, I think, more than anything. Everyone had their dream of what they wanted to happen, and while I think a lot of people didn't get what they wanted, what we were left with, I think, was satisfactory. Some people are calling it the worst series finale ever, and this season blows, and there's that petition. It's like, I think it's got 1 million signatures now to remake season 8. Grow up, dude, okay? Okay, just, what are you doing? Okay, all you're proving is that there's 1 million crybabies out there. You can sign all the petitions you want, but when that spinoff, that first Game of Thrones spinoff series comes out, you're going to be watching it, and you're just going to be eating your words. So, anyway, I don't want to go too much into that, because I'm sure I'm going to get some angry tweets just on that 1-minute comment alone. But, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to kind of character-wise, okay? Character-wise, I just want to talk about, how everyone ended up and kind of my feelings on it, and I swear I'm really going to try not to be long-winded. Going off the talk, MVP of the episode, Peter Dinklage is Tyrion Lannister. Really, I mean, come on. He's got to be MVP of the series, in my opinion, okay? He's got multiple Emmy nominations for his role in this. He does such a great job, such a great character, as a lot of these characters are. The scene, though, where he goes down into the crypt and he finds his dead brother and sister, and his reaction and oh my God, it was so good. That scene alone was so good. Lets you know just what a talented actor he is. And as far as where he ends up, I thought it was okay. He was hand of the king to Joffrey. He was hand of the queen to Daenerys. He, realizes he did a bad job at both. He didn't want to be hand, but, Bran, of course, made him his hand of the king once again. He didn't want it, but that's why Bran knew that he would do a good job this time around, because he knew he would learn from his mistakes, and that was great. His small council was perfect. Bronn, my second favorite character of the whole series, got his castle, got his prestige, so to speak, and he's one I love. Sir Davos, being the kind of mentor character, I kind of thought he was going to die, and maybe die trying to save Jon. It didn't happen. Instead, he got a seat at the small council. I mean, this is a guy, I remember, who started off as a pirate in his life, and then, started working for Stannis Baratheon. So now he's at a seat at the High Council. That's great. Sam, kind of where I thought he'd end up. Maester, that's what he was training for. That's who he is. So he ends up there. That's great. Um, of course, Bran comes rolling in, and who rolls him in but Sir Podrick. Sir Podrick, great. I'm glad. I think that's maybe what people are disappointed in a series that really tugged at your heartstrings and killed your favorite characters, was full of surprises and a lot of pain and misery. I think people are just mad that it pretty much ended happily for pretty much those who survived. And I think that's what a lot of people are upset about. Of course, I can't speak for them, but that's just my theory. Brienne of Tarth, of course, being captains of the Kingsguard is, something that I'm sure she really, earned, in my opinion. And, she's probably happy doing it, what she was meant to do, really. So, and the way she was writing in the book, there was the episode in season 4 about Jaime, and there was the book of all the people that served in the Kingsguard, and Jaime's book was tarnished because the king he served, the Mad King, he stabbed. So that kind of left a blemish in his name and history. But Brienne comes in and talks about all the stuff he did recently, and of course at the end said he died, defending his queen, I think is what it was, and give him a good note. Of course, she loved him in some way. He loved her, but he loved his sister more. Let's see here. Grey Worm. Grey Worm, of course, took the Unsullied. I'm assuming the Dothraki. I know they went to Noth, which is, I know where Missandei was from. But it's my assumption that pretty much he, just took everybody that came over with Daenerys, and then they went back. They went back across. And I'm curious, I forget the name of the character. Daenerys' boy toy, the mercenary who had to stay and help protect Meereen. I'm curious, if he's going to go back and see him and be like, yo, this is what happened. And that would be a very interesting conversation to hear. But also with Grey Worm, he was devoted to his queen. And, I liked the character. I liked him and Missandei together. But you knew as soon as Dany went crazy, Grey Worm was going to go a little crazy as well. I almost fully expected some kind of fight between Grey Worm and Jon to go down, or even Grey Worm and Arya, which did not. But you could obviously see that Grey Worm knew Jon was disapproving of what Daenerys was doing. That scene where he was about to execute the Lannister prisoners, a great scene. It just lets you know the tension. I mean, everything leading up to Dany getting knifed. Not even that. Even afterwards, where Dragon shows up, until they flash forward several weeks, everything was so tense. And I'll give it to that episode. I'll give it to the directors, to the creators, the actors, everything. Everything was so tense the first half of this episode that it was great. Then you jump forward, and I feel like we were set in Return of the King, Lord of the Rings, because you had kind of these endings. I mean, you even had a Doc send-off, much like you did at the end of Return of the King with, Frodo and Sam and the other hobbits there, when he sails off, to pretty much die or be by himself, however you want to look at it. But this whole second half seemed very much Return of the King-ish, in my opinion. I got that feeling from it. Okay, before I get to the Starks, let's talk, of course, Daenerys. Obviously, after what happened in the last episode, we all feared her and knew what Jon and Arya and Tyrion, what they were going to have to do, or at least try to do to her. And, especially that one part where she gets out, obviously the scene where, she walks out and she's got the dragon wings behind her. Again, cinematography was phenomenal in this episode, or in this season, really, I think. When she gives a speech to the Dothraki and to the Unsullied about how, she's won, but really she hasn't won. I mean, she's going to go and take out anyone else who opposes her, which I thought was Winterfell. I mean, if we had 3 more episodes instead of 1, I fully expected her to take her army back up to Winterfell and try to take out Sansa. That would have been, something really cool to see if we had more episodes, to see her truly try to conquer before Jon took her out. But she obviously arrested Tyrion, understandably, because, especially after she found out that she had let his brother go, and what had gone there. And as far as with Jon and Tyrion, that scene where they're talking, and, Jon still refuses the throne. But Tyrion knows if Jon doesn't take it or doesn't do something now, it's going to be too late later on, which is, in a normal Game of Thrones season, the conversation between Tyrion and Jon, and then Jon and Daenerys would be a whole episode before those events took place between each other. But again, shorter season, little rushed, and that's kind of been the theme of the whole season, I guess, is just rush, 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 get to it, get to it, get to it. But to be honest, I mean, there are seasons of Game of Thrones or episodes of Game of Thrones that were so slow. Those first couple seasons especially, it took so long for things to happen. But in some cases it was good because, you got the good character development, the good conversation, the good dialogue, which I truly enjoyed. And I think that's kind of a lot. We got those conversations, but the characters contemplating on their decisions and what they had to do is kind of what was taken out of. You want to say maybe, it suffered lack of character development? Possibly, but, we knew these characters. We've been with them for 7 years in a season, technically almost 10 years as in their world. So the fact that you can say, we needed more character development, I think we knew these characters well enough to know where they were going to end up. We didn't, that time that we would usually get for them thinking about their decision before they made it, it was okay that we didn't have it. But okay, Daenerys. Back to her again. It was one of those things where she was a ruler who, the moment she said, I know what's right, I know what's good, that's when you have to worry. When someone definitively says that, says, I am the absolute authority on what is right, they're no longer the authority on what is right. I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to. So that's, I think, kind of what got Jon as well, because, Jon is a true hero in every sense of the word. He doesn't want the power. He just wants to do what's right. But even then, he struggles with what the right thing is to do up to the very end. And when Dany says, I know what the right thing is, and everyone else who doesn't think like I do is wrong, that's kind of like, hey, well, obviously she gone cray-cray, so let me take this little dagger and poke, got her. And then Dragon shows up, and, I felt like, there was a moment I talked about it, I think on the last episode, where I half expected him, whether it was, Daenerys on the back of Dragon, to burn Jon and him not burn. I was probably about 80% thinking that was going to happen. But it didn't. Instead, Dragon burned the Iron Throne and was just mad and then took his mother elsewhere. That scene itself, the symbolism, of course, he burned down the Iron Throne, and what had happened, what had changed, obviously, in the following scene with the council, what happened was exactly what Daenerys wanted to do. She wanted to break the wheel. For now on, in Westeros, people will, not be king based just because their father was king. The council's going to come and they're going to vote. And it's not true democracy like Sam suggested, but, it's pretty good. It's a better system than what we have. But now you got to think about all the plotting and the scheming that we've had throughout the series. Yeah, you think it's going to be better, but really I think it's going to be worse because, much like politicians are, run for president or certain officers or whatever, and they have to get allies. I mean, I think you're definitely going to see a lot of that going on as far as like, if a Tully wants to, think they want to sit on the Iron Throne, they're going to rally as much allies as they can when their true powers, gain power. So whether, it's not a perfect system, nothing ever is, but I don't think it completely solves the problem. Who knows? If anything, I think it might make it worse, but I don't know. I guess it's a political question, and I'm not a political expert. Okay, so to the Stark, let's talk about the least important one, Bran. What do you know? The Three-Eyed Raven sits on the Iron Throne, Bran the Broken, as they call him. Okay, it wasn't what I expected, but again, I'm satisfied with what we got. I think it's a little weird given that, of course, Bran refused, to be Lord of Winterfell, among other things, much like Jon refused to, take the throne. That's why you kind of believe him to be a good ruler. But also, as Tyrion pointed out, he knows Westeros' entire history. Okay? And people who know their history are doomed not to repeat it, allegedly. So I guess in that sense, he probably is a good person to sit on the throne. Whether he's the best person, of course, that's always debatable. In any event, he's on the throne. He's a cripple, and he can't. I love it where Santa's like, he can't father any children, and then the meme is like, Brad's dick don't work. It was just funny, but of course, they're gonna vote once Bran dies, or whatever. Eventually, someone else is going to be voted king again. Whether he dies of natural causes or because someone else wants the throne, that's a political question that I'm not about to get into. Let's see here. Jon Targaryen, Jon Stark, whatever you want to call him. He's my favorite character of the show, and I think I would give him number 2 MVP of this finale here, of course, because of course, toward the end it focused a lot on him and his decisions that he made, which is rightfully so. There was 2 seasons ago when we found out he was a Targaryen, and the name of the book or the series is A Song of Fire and Ice, which, by the way, the fact that they made that book, that Sam made the book, and that was the title of it, totally cheesy. Didn't work for me. Didn't like it. Any event, Song of Fire and Ice, he was a Stark and a Targaryen. So I always thought, once we learned that the Song of Fire and Ice was about Jon Snow. He was the song, so to speak. But the way it ended for him, he got sent back to Castle Black. But I feel like everyone pulled a fast one on Grey Worm, is what it was, because he wanted to kill him, obviously, for killing his queen, which, why Jon stood there and just didn't try to run or, tell him something else happened. That's just who he is, I guess, as far as him being an honest person, and he was willing to accept his fate, but why he didn't do something to get out of that, I don't know. I mean, he could have just ran away and just gone into hiding, is what it could have been. But any event, Grey Worm, of course, he's been to King's Landing. He's been to Winterfell. He's been to, what's the Baratheon place? Dragonstone? Is that what it is? Yes, Dragonstone. He's never been to Castle Rock. All he knows is what Castle Rock is, which is the Night's Watch, and their fathering these children. It's pretty much a sentencing. So when they said Jon goes to the Night Watch, he's sentenced there. And Grey Worm's like, well, from everything I know, it won't be good for him. So yes, we'll do that. But did anyone bother to tell Grey Worm that, the Night's Watch pretty much doesn't exist anymore? Okay? I mean, their job was to guard the wall from the undead, the Night King. That's all gone now. Okay? The wall has absolutely no purpose now that the army of the dead is dead. Okay? So Jon went up there and he goes through the gates and you see Tormund there. Okay? And I'm pretty sure this was all something planned where, nobody was obviously there except for Tormund and the wildlings. Whether they killed or took out those 2 guards that escorted Jon there, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that, they were led up there and Tormund was like, okay, let's go north where no one will bother you. No one will know, what happened to you, whatever. Jon goes on to be the king of the true north, so to speak, which, of course, you go back a couple episodes, him and Tormund talking about it. It was pretty inevitable. And then you got the reunion with Ghost, which all those people who were bitching about, how he didn't hug Ghost goodbye a few episodes ago. Well, guess what? They had a plan. What? Are you talking to me about these writers actually have a plan and that you shouldn't just bitch immediately after each episode about what didn't happen, but wait to see how the whole thing ends? That's crazy. Oh my God. No way. Yes, okay, he got his moment with Ghost, so everyone who talked about Ghost, I think you owe them an apology. Okay, anyway, but yeah, he goes and he lives out a life of solitude with the wildlings, and you know what? It's not a bad way to go. It's Jon, with his brooding nature and what he's seen. It's a peaceful way for him to live. He didn't take the Iron Throne because he doesn't want it. He didn't want to be king of the North. He gets the quiet life, I guess you would seek. And I think that's a real fitting way for the character to end as far as the series. Arya, she did what she wanted to do too. She had been around the world and seen a lot of things and learned a lot of things, and now she wants to go explore. I think there was that scene or line, I forget exactly what it was, but there was a line where, she asked what's west of Westeros, to one person at some point in the series. Obviously, I can remember it, but I can't remember who was said or what it was said in context. But that's her idea of going off and, giving her an ending, which is great because I can't see her sticking around, given her nature to wander and stuff like that. There was that one part there where I thought she was going to try to disguise herself and kill Daenerys. I kind of thought, honestly, when it was Jon walking into the throne room with Daenerys, that it was really Arya, but then I remembered she can only wear the faces of people that are dead, and she wouldn't kill Jon, so that wasn't going to happen. But, the one of those powers, the face thing, we hadn't seen that in a while, so I'm kind of disappointed, she didn't get to do it. But there's spin-offs, which I'll get to in just a sec here. And then finally, Sansa. Okay, let's be clear about this. Sansa is the MVP of the entire goddamn series. She was a little bird at the beginning of the series who just wanted to marry the king and be the queen. She was so naive. I hated her, actually. She was such a little brat for so many seasons. But you know what? She kept getting worse and worse situations put upon her, which changed her and made her, different, to where we get to season 6, when she escapes Ramsay and she gets together with Jon, and then she becomes the Lady of Winterfell. And this season there were parts where I thought that she really was against Daenerys, of course, and I think part of that, of course, there were one of the few things that added up to big things that added to Daenerys going crazy. But going way back, of course, obviously to season 1 with Robb, where the North pretty much declared itself an independent state against, the king and the rest of Westeros. And they call them King of the North. And that's what the North wants. The North, for those you don't know, is actually the biggest kingdom in the Seven Kingdoms, okay? Which is, again, another reason why Sansa wanted to secede, there we go, I said it right, secede from the rest of it. So now you have the 6 kingdoms of Westeros instead of 7. And Sansa, given the fact that Bran is king, Arya's going away, Jon's going away, well, there's only one Stark left, and that's her. And you know what? She got to be queen. She got to be queen of her own kingdom, okay? And that is the winner of the Game of Thrones, okay? She pulled the pieces she had to and got exactly what she wanted. And honestly, unlike Cersei, nobody had to die to really do it. So give her credit. Give her all the credit in the world. Congratulations, Sansa Stark, winner of the Game of Thrones. So now what? Well, of course, you're going to have some people mad about this for a while. Again, I wasn't completely thrilled with how we got to the end, but I like the endings because there is no ending. Those are some of my favorite TV show endings, okay, is probably the top 2 off the top of my head were, number 1, Friday Night Lights, because that show is just amazing. And number 2, I liked Angel, the Buffy Vampire Slayer spinoff Angel, because it didn't end. And, it went into comic books, stuff like that. They left it so open to where you can do so many spinoffs because they left so many characters alive. Now, I still complain that in the Battle of Winterfell, more people should have died, more main characters should have died. That's neither here nor there, but you set up what everyone else is doing, and everyone else is going on their own adventure, I guess, continuing adventure, so to speak. So there is so many more spinoffs they can do, so many more they can continue it. Obviously, we're getting the prequel spinoff with Naomi Watts. We've already talked about that. But then they have several other spinoffs. And I will bet, I'll bet my collection of Game of Thrones Blu-rays that I've collected throughout the years that at least one of those spinoffs is a post-Game of Thrones spinoff with one of the Starks or somebody, in this world, because they couldn't say the name of the other spinoffs until people knew how it was going to end and who was going to live. Kind of like with the MCU. Kevin Feige wouldn't announce what was post Avengers Endgame until you saw Avengers Endgame and the audience knew who survived. So then it could be like, okay, yes, this person survived. You know that. So now here's what we got planned for him next. I was talking to my friend Samantha online, and I guarantee you within the next 5 years, we are definitely getting a spinoff post Game of Thrones with some characters. I'll put every finger I have on it, okay? Because guess what? Game of Thrones is money, and HBO loves making money, okay? That's just how it goes. Okay, guys, so I, of course, have run over. I have not had time to talk about Batman and Robert Pattinson. If I have time on Thursday's show, I will get to that, of course. You know, more time means clearer heads, of course, will prevail, and we have more time to ponder rationally about it, which I think is a good thing. But time for you guys to fire back. Social media groups, Facebook group, Twitter, of course, dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. Game of Thrones, what do you think? What do you think about how it ended? Do you think, what are your ideas of how you would want it to end? I really want to know. How do you think it should have ended? Okay, if you don't like this ending, how do you think it should have ended? Ian, are you satisfied with this ending? Let me know. Spinoffs, what are your ideas? What do you want to see, of course? And, just overall, Game of Thrones, what do you think? Fire back, of course. You can find me personally on Instagram and Twitter, Slim Dayspring 12. And that's it. That's all I got time for today, guys, because I do not want to run over. Like I said, hopefully on Thursday I can talk Batman and the casting for that stuff. Hopefully some more other stuff. I'm going to see John Wick 3, so I'll share my thoughts on that. And that'll be it for me today, guys. Until next time, may the Force be with us all.